Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily with Ray Flowers, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to use the promo code FSD20 for a 20% discount on the products over at fantasyguru.com. Hey there, everyone. I'm Ray Flowers of fantasyguru.com, and I just realized, faux pas, the background. Oh my gosh. For those of you watching live on the show, got to make a change here. Whoa, Ray Flowers forgot this morning with all the things I got to do. There is a gentleman's bet here, or gentleman's call, if you will, that we will not be repeating photos for the entirety of the first 365 days of this show. And at the start, I just blew it. That was a repeated photo. So let me scan through here real quickly. Let me find a picture that we haven't used yet that will suffice for what we are trying to do today. And there is one. And we're just about ready to rock and roll. There it is. Sorry about that, folks. We had 15 seconds of Ray Flowers breaking his promise to all of you. Again, I'm Ray Flowers of fantasyguru.com. Thanks for choosing to spend some time with us today here on the show. Really appreciate that. You can leave your comments on the website. You can on the website. The website is youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. You can leave your comment there live. You can also check in with us live at Facebook, facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ. Those are the two spots where you can leave comments where we'll answer them at the end of the show, or address them at least at the end of the show. You can also watch us live on Twitter X. You can listen to us on demand at any point. Type in Fantasy Sports Daily into your podcast network. Find us there. And then you can also get us at, what's the last one I'm thinking of? Oh, yeah, of course. FantasyGuru.com. Click the Elite Plus tab at the top of the page. What are we talking about today? Well, we got a lot to talk about today. And here's kind of the rundown. Aaron Judge, Luis Heel, Anthony Santander, Emmanuel Clase, Carlos Santana, Alex Bregman, Jake McCarthy, Heliot Ramos, and Shane Baz. I probably should have put Shane Baz in the injury scenario. That was a mistake on my part. I thought of it right as the show began, but technically he's hurt, but I think he's close. We'll talk about him in a second. Then we'll go some injured guys: C.J. Abrams, Kyle Tucker, Adael, Amador, Jason Dominguez, Gleyber Torres, Gallen, Senga, Darvish, Jose Soriano, Gasser, Tiedemann, and Walier Abreu. We're also going to be visiting, because it's Friday, with Russell Clay. Wednesdays, Amador Marçal talking football. Thursdays are Tyler Beaker talking football. Fridays are Russell Clay talking football. He'll be on. We're going to finish up our talk about wide receivers, and we'll talk young wide receivers with him today. He is our dynasty guy. So we'll talk about guys like Marvin Harrison, Jahan Dotson, McConkey, Josh Palmer, Christian Kirk, Jameson, Williams, Demario, Douglas, and maybe sneak in a couple of vets in Tyler Lockett and Jerry Jeudy. In order to get the football product, you know how to do it. Go to fantasyguru.com, click the subscribe tab, top right corner of the page. Get signed up. The full season package is available right now at fantasyguru.com. My first series of articles for that drop on the 28th, so next week. My by the numbers pieces looking back at last season at each position: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight ends. So that'll drop next week. I'll have an auction article in a couple of weeks. I'll have the PPR running back myth article in a couple of weeks. The staff is cranking out things. We had Russell Clay. We'll have Russell Clay on today. His dynasty section of the draft guide is live. He'll continue to update that. The best ball section of the guide is live. Tyler Beaker will continue to update that. We've got rankings out the wazoo. We've got Discord. We've got the live stream on Tuesdays at 7 o'clock Eastern time. All of that is available. Click on the subscribe tab on the top right and get going in football. And one other thing, as we start talking about some baseball here on the show, Russell will join us about a half hour. The DFS package has been lowered. That is right. We have lowered the price. So if you want to get involved with baseball, we have lowered the price yet again. So you can sign up right now for the DFS baseball package. It's $99.99. That gets you coverage the rest of the season. Cash game breakdown, GPP breakdowns, access to asking questions in Discord. The rest of the way, have some fun if you want to still keep baseball. If you're tired and frustrated of the seasonal thing, all the injuries we talk about on the show every day, you want to win some cash, we can help you do it in the DFS space. And don't forget, we also have the ability to help you in the wagering space. 2 for 2 last night, hit props on Jurickson Profar and Christian Yelich. They're over hit, run, and RBI props. So I was 2 for 2 last night. That's part of what we do. Myself, Ted Schuster, Jeff Manns, Rob Brink, the MLB model, also have that package again. Go to subscribe tab at the top right corner. You can sign up for the DFS and the wagering package for baseball at a discounted rate at the moment. All right, back to the baseball talk. Oh, and one final thing I should note. I've been saying this every day. I was looking at the calendar, kind of planning out next week. July 1st, the showtime will change. Still going to be in all the same locations. Everything will be the same as always. The showtime will change. We're moving from 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time as a starting point for Fantasy Sports Daily back to noon Eastern. So on July 1st, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, that'll be the time change. And then from then on forward, we'll be on at noon. So you can get a watch of us, get a listen to us, and then watch the Elite Sports Show or listen to the Elite Sports Show on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right. Aaron Judge is back in action. Let's start out with him. And this is obviously great news. We were concerned about being hit by the pitch. He missed a game. He's back out there. He went 2 for 3, had a home run, 3 RBIs. Looks like he'll be fine. I just will warn everyone, as I did when the injury happened, that Judge has a long and extensive track record of missing games for a variety of reasons. I don't think the least of which is he's 6'7", 280 pounds. He's a huge dude. And it's a lot to play every day for 6 months. But back in the lineup and again, producing right away. Great news for the Yankees. We'll talk a little bit about a situation that not so great for them. But right now, Aaron Judge, back in the lineup for everybody. That's great news. Now, Luis Gil. Hey, man, it's a tough matchup when you take on the Orioles. Orioles put a 17 spot on the Yankees yesterday? And Luis Gil was destroyed. He got 4 outs and gave up 7 runs. 8 hits, walked 2, had a strikeout. Again, this is the running theme we've been discussing all season long here. And we discuss it every year. But, if you're new to us with fantasyguru.com or here on Fantasy Sports Daily, we have to be realistic about who players are. Luis Gil was having one of the greatest first halves of a season for a pitcher in Yankee history. And the Yankees have had some pretty good pitchers over the years, right? So you had to know that there was some regression coming at some point. The problem is when an outing like yesterday happens, you were starting Luis Gil. It was a difficult matchup. You're thinking, hey, give me 5 innings, allow 2 or 3 runs, will be cool. He goes out and gets bombed, gets 4 outs, gives up 7 runs. There is further regression coming. And I was joking with Phil Backert, who does DFS work for us on the baseball side of things and covers IDP for football for us over at fantasyguru.com. And I was like, look, I hope this doesn't become a Kent Bottenfield situation. He's like, gosh, I got to be honest with you, I don't even remember Kent Bottenfield. And I think it was 98 or 99. Kent Bottenfield with 18-7, kind of out of nowhere made an All-Star game. He was 14-3 at the All-Star break. 14-3. And he went 18-7. So what is that? That's 4-4 in the second half. I wonder about Gil. We've talked about him on and on. Batting average and balls and plays out of control. Left on base percentage is out of control. Too much success given the walk rate. The fact that there's no innings here. This is a signal. If you didn't believe anything I was saying previously, this is a signal that what I was saying previously is probably what's going to happen. And that is Gil's going to have start skipped. He's going to have shorter outings. There could be an injured list stint coming here. I wouldn't be shocked if he goes on the injured list here soon or has a start skip soon. Wouldn't be shocked. We'll see. There's just regression coming statistically, and then there's the workload piece. So brutal beatdown. He faces the Mets next week, a much more palatable matchup than the one against the Orioles yesterday. So just kind of a rehashing of what we've been talking about with Gil, who has been, up until yesterday, fantastic in 2024. Anthony Santander on the other side of that, 2 for 5 yesterday with the walk. He had a home run. That's 10 home runs in June. And, for those people that were a little nervous with Santander, which is understandable, he was, not performing up to expectations. He's got 19 home runs, 48 RBIs, and 800 OPS. He's on pace to go 40-100 all of a sudden, right, with his 10 home runs in June. And this is how these things can go, and it's why it's dangerous to play the pace game. We all do it, especially now as we're approaching like the halfway point of the year. It's dangerous, especially when you start talking about things like home runs, because it's not just they come in bunches. I say this all the time. 30 home runs in 26 weeks of a season is 1.16 home runs a week. So you hit 1 this week, you hit 0 next week, you hit 2 the next week, you're right on that pace. But remember, that would have been 1 home run in 2 weeks. 1 home run in 12 games is not good. 1 home run in 12 games give you a pace of what? 15 home runs for a season? It's really not good. Then you have a stretch where you hit 3 home runs in 6 days, and all of a sudden you're right back on your home run pace. So, I think a guy like Santander with his track record the last couple of years, his consistency the last couple of years, hopefully no one bailed on Santander. But right now, he's absolutely crushing the ball. There's a lot of guys that you can say that about. There's a lot of positives and negatives. Yesterday over at fantasyguru.com, I wrote about the middle infielders and a bunch of things that popped with me there. Today, we just released this morning my corner infield piece, kind of the sister piece to that. So that's available right now. So I'd encourage everyone to check that out. Santander is not in those articles. He doesn't need to be in those articles because we've talked about him here on the show. Written him up in the cash game breakdown too over at fantasyguru.com. He has been fantastic and having a spectacular month of June. Emmanuel Clase, this is just, I can't take credit for being smarter and writing about things and not be honest about you with all of you about other things. Emmanuel Clase is killing it again. His whip is, 0.0. His ERA is 0.8. He's got a gazillion saves. He's got 22 saves right now. And I thought, and it's turned out to be incorrect so far, that his season last year was messy enough that there should have been some concern with him coming into this season. I think I still had him like third or fourth at the closer spot. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm misremembering that. I don't have my rankings from the preseason up here, but I certainly didn't have him number one, and I wasn't expecting another run to 40 saves. Clearly, he's on pace to do that. He's got a 0.76 ERA, a 0.6 whip. He's made 36 appearances, and he's walked 3 guys while allowing 1 home run. I mean, the game's pretty easy if you don't allow home runs and don't walk anybody, right? He is a fascinating pitcher. He is not Mariano Rivera, but he's very much, a guy that sits there and says, I will fire one pitch at you and you will like it. And he's had success. Let's check out his K rate. The K rate was the big concern that I had coming into the season because it really, really went down last season. And it's right back up to his career average. And there you go. 21% last year is a poor number. This year it's 28%. There you go. He's been fantastic. Obviously, we need to expect some regression here in the second half. He's not going to post a 0.8 ERA. He's not Dennis Eckersley, is he? He has blown 3 saves, but last year he blew 12 and lost 9 games. So he had 21 negative efforts last year. This year he's got 4. Clase has been terrific. I was incorrect saying that there was concern, at least according to the first half. Carlos Santana is someone that's been asked about a little bit. And, you look at his track record, you look at his age, you say, look, is he going to play every day for the Twins? Okay. 3 or 5 with a home run last night. So I thought it'd be a good time to look at him. He's got 12 home runs and he's hitting 247 this season. And that's, maybe the average is a little higher than you would think with Carlos Santana. And it's not anything to get excited about. And I think it's basically his career levels. Now, the difference lately is the last month he's hitting 330 with 5 home runs. The last 2 weeks, he's hitting 366 with 13 RBIs in 12 games. And the last week, he's 9 for 18. So he is blazing hot right now. And if you want to play the game in 2-week segments, which I don't recommend, and I certainly don't recommend it with a guy like Carlos Santana. If you want to play the game in 2-week segments, Carlos Santana is a must-add. Because, again, he's been really effective for a month, and he's been crazy hot the last week. He's still a 250 hitter if everything goes well, which means his batting average is the peak right now. His OPS is 774. I think that's basically the peak of who he is. There's always the chance that he starts losing playing time at some point because he's a veteran, yes. He's a stabilizing presence in an offense, yes. But he really is just a guy offensively, and he's not young. And the team is not tied to him whatsoever long-term. He's great right now. And again, short-term edition, let's roll tide, as they say. You're head-to-head, go for it. Just be cautious in a seasonal setup. Whereas Santander's got legs with his hot June, I don't think Carlos Santana does. Alex Bregman continues to be frustrating. 3 for 5 last night, scored a run. In June, he's hit 322 with a 394 on base percentage and a 492 slugging percentage. Those numbers rock. And I have said, and to be fair, it hasn't really come together. I have said, have patience with Bregman. His month, again, is really impressive. And that's great to see. His seasonal numbers, he's still hitting 250 with a 710 OPS. Ugh. So he needs to continue what he's doing now. And the concern we all have, obviously, is that he was terrible to start, and then he had a really good 2-week period of time, and then he went back to being terrible. So is this 3-week run right now just a continuation of the roller coaster with him? are we going to see some stabilization at some point? The Astros, and we'll talk more about their situation with Tucker and Loperfido in a bit. The Astros, they did get back Yordan Alvarez. Yordan's been a little uneven. He's missed some time away with family stuff. He's now obviously back and rocking for the team. Kyle Tucker's been down. Their pitching staffs had all kinds of injuries. The Astros just haven't come together. The Rangers haven't come together either. So Texas has had a hard time with these two really good teams. I'm still maintaining the faith in Bregman, and as I've noted here, his performance has improved of late. We'll see how much legs it has, but I'm still a fan. I'm still in. I think June is starting to show us why that is. We'll see if he can continue it. Fingers crossed, and I kind of expect he will. Jake McCarthy is another one of these guys that we've been all over the place with Jake McCarthy. Written about him, talked about him. I picked him up a couple of years ago in my Dynasty League. He then had that massive run down the stretch where he was a league winner when he stole 20 bases and hit 290 in the second half of the season a couple of years ago. The bat is moderate. He runs and he plays decent defense. It's a fantasy-friendly-ish skill set because he can steal 30 bases. The problem for him is obviously now league's running more. 30 steals aren't what they were 5 years ago. If everyone's healthy in the outfield, including Alek Thomas with the Diamondbacks, it seems like the Diamondbacks have made their choice. They think Alek Thomas is a better starting option than Jake McCarthy. Thomas has been dealing with injury. Last night, McCarthy went 3 for 4, stole 2 bases. He's only got 12 steals on the season, so that's a little light. But the 3-hit game he had last night did improve his batting average to 298? Is that what it is? 298? Let's see if I can get this. Jake McCarthy. There we go, Ray. Jeez. Jake McCarthy, 298. And the OPS is up to 800. Now, we really need him to run more because 3 home runs and 18 RBIs in 64 games doesn't. We need him to run more. But still, he's under 200 plate appearances. So a full season of work at this pace is 35 steals, hitting 300. Just like Carlos Santana. Of late, he's been fantastic. The last 2 weeks, he's hitting 414 with 3 steals. The last week, he's only played 4 games because they're not playing him every day. They're platooning him, but he's 8 for 13. So, short-term pickup, Jake McCarthy, sure. Obviously, the concerns I laid out are there. But right now, he's swinging a good bat, and he does run, and he's playing most of the time for the Diamondbacks. Heliot Ramos, just another, my goodness, 3-run home run yesterday. That's 8 home runs in June. He's not Anthony Santander, but he's right behind him. This is starting to get stupid good with him. He's got 10 home runs, 35 RBIs in 39 games. That is the old 140 pace. Obviously, Ramos, we said it here on the show, the slowdown's coming. No part of this game, the power piece, the run production piece, the batting average, no part of this should be expected the rest of the way. As previously noted, his success, though, to date, it basically guarantees him with health. Basically guarantees him with health that he's going to be in this lineup for months. He could hit 200 the next month and a half. I don't think he comes out of the Giants lineup. Great news there if you took the chance on Heliot Ramos. And he's rolling right now. He's rolling. Shane Baz, again, the last guy I have here. Listen to the performance section because he performed well last night. Obviously should have been in the injured section. Let's talk about him for a moment. He struck out 6 batters over 3 scoreless innings last night. The fastball is about 97 miles an hour. He needed 70 pitches for the 3 games, which is, not ideal, but he had 6 strikeouts, and that's what can happen. He also walked 3 guys, not ideal. He's got 24 strikeouts his last 3 starts. When is Shane Baz going to return? Well, we need to get the pitch count up and the workload up. I say that. Let's back up for a second. In the old days, if you were able to throw 75 pitches, you weren't promoted. You had to get out to 90, right? Especially when you're a young player coming back from injury. If you're Garrett Cole, okay. If you're Shane Baz, you got to do that. Would they call up Baz without that? They might. 70 pitches, 3 innings. That's not, we're not there yet. The 3 walks is not deal. The stuff seems to be back. The velocity is back and the stuff is back. And that's the most important part coming back from injury. Shane Baz, to do a little quick refresher course, was before injury, one of the top 5 right-handed pitching prospects in baseball. He is looked at as, if everything comes together perfectly, he could be an SP1 at the big league level. Like he could be an ace. And there's not many guys that scouts look at and say, this guy could be an ace. Like, he legitimately could perform like Tyler Glass now. Again, that's if everything goes perfect, that's not to say it will this season or ever for him, but that's where he's at. You look at the rotation with the Rays right now. They've got Zach Eflin, Aaron Savale, Taj Bradley, Ryan Pepiot, Zach Littell. Eflin's going to stick in the rotation. I don't think they want to move Savale to the bullpen, but he's been really blah. Taj Bradley's going to stick in the rotation. Pepiot will stick in the rotation, but he's not throwing 160 innings this year, I don't think. So there's some wiggle room there. Littell's been really good, but, he's kind of just a guy, but he's been very effective. The problem for the Rays is they're all right-handed, and Baz is a righty too. So even if they go to a six-man rotation, having six starting pitchers that are all right-handed is not ideal. You look, Drew Rasmussen is coming back from injury. Shane McClain's coming back from injury. Jeffrey Springs is coming back from injury. Obviously, the hope is Springs, who's a lefty, will be back in the second half of the season. So now we got 7 starting pitchers. Right? So Savale needs to pick it up, because as much as I don't think they want to put him in the bullpen, he needs to pick it up. These other guys, workload considerations. My end of the day here with them is that if they call up Baz, which they don't have to do right now because their staff is healthy, if they call up Baz right now, they probably go 6-man rotation. That protects him. That protects Pepiot. That gives Eflin extra time because he's always dealing with little bumps and bruises. Can't hurt Taj Bradley either. That'd be my guess, but no definitive date for Baz to be promoted. I think it is fair in deeper mixed leagues to add him right now if you have an NA spot and he's available. Even if you're in a 12 or 15 team league and you just have a kind of dead roster spot you don't quite know what to do with. I hesitate in a head-to-head league because I don't want to waste a roster spot with nothing in a head-to-head league, but in a roto league. So I think Shane Baz is somebody that it's about time, right? Because once he's promoted, there will be a fervor. And then depending upon how your waivers run, you may or may not be able to get him. You might add him now, and he may not make a start until after the All-Star break. So you might have to wait a month. Could be called up next week, right? There could be an injury to one of these guys, and they roll with him immediately. So his talent, I think, it dictates a move if you have the opportunity to do so on your fantasy squad. Love the arm. All right, some of the injured stuff to talk about. CJ Abrams is day-to-day. An MRI showed a ganglion cyst on kind of on the wrist palm area over here on his left hand. The ganglion cyst is not cancer-related. It's just more really of an annoyance. It shouldn't be something that precludes him from playing. It shouldn't be something that physically is a long-term concern for him. Maybe at some point in the offseason he has something done, but he should be able to navigate through this, provided it's not in an area, because I don't know exactly where it is. If it's not an area that impacts his thumb movement or anything like that. So the expectation is now that he should be back in the lineup this weekend at some point. We've talked about him. We talked about him, was it earlier this week, late last week, about the fact that, he hasn't quite been there, but he's not that far off. And there's some good things happening of late. So let's hope he can get back out there. But good news, he should be able to get back out there very quickly for the Nationals. Kyle Tucker, here we go. And, the reports are now suggesting that Kyle Tucker hit the ball off his shin. We've talked about it numerous times here. Joe Espada says that they're hopeful that Kyle Tucker can do some baseball activities this weekend. If he does baseball activities this weekend, they have admitted what we have talked about, the fact that it's been weeks now, so he's almost certain to have to go on a minor league assignment for at least a couple of days. Maybe midweek next week he's back. I don't know. I guess it's possible he's back on Monday. Possible. I don't know how likely that is. This has turned into a scenario that we unfortunately kind of discussed as a possible outcome here. And let's hope, again, if he's back next week, whatever it is, that he's able to do Kyle Tucker things. If he's a limited athlete, doesn't do anybody any good. So they'll continue to work through that. We'll continue to monitor that. KPRC Houston's Ari Alexander is reporting that Joey Loperfido will be promoted again. This one, this is an interesting one. We've talked about Loperfido before. He came up, and on the surface, what was his OPS? 800. He hit 300. We talked about his massive strikeout rate. We talked about the fact he really didn't drive the baseball. Now, was he given the best opportunity? He was extremely platooned. They didn't give him opportunities. Could he grab first base now with Jose Abreu gone? Yes. Could he be a short-term fill-up until Tucker is back? Yes. And that's the real issue here with the Astros, is that it's very unclear as right now where Loperfido fits, because he did enough previously that if they were really committed to him, and this is my thought, they're really committed to him in 2024. He did enough previously to get a spot in the daily lineup. They could have made the decision to move on from Jose Abreu previously. The fact that they waited on that says, look, we know you have a 39% strikeout rate or whatever it was. We're a little concerned. Now, John Singleton's just a guy, so there certainly is an opportunity for Loperfido there. In the outfield, it gets really tough and tight when you get Tucker back. So let's hope that Loperfido can supplant Singleton, who's also a lefty swinger. So, there's that too. Loperfido's got some skills. He's got more power than batting average, even though we didn't quite see that the first time around. The strikeouts that we've been discussing here and previously are a huge concern. He's got to tighten that up or he's going to hit 220. So we'll see with Loperfido. Adael Amador has got a mild oblique strain. We've talked about him on the show. Brandon Rogers returns hopefully soon for the Rockies. When that happens, you have to think that Amador, especially with this oblique issue, probably gets sent down. He hasn't really performed very well. Great talent, just doesn't seem quite ready right now, and then a health issue. So if you were hoping with Amador, it depends on your league setup. You could hold on to him, but I think in most scenarios it's okay to move on now that we have the mild oblique strain with him. Gleyber Torres strained his groin yesterday. Well, tweaked his groin, I guess is a better way to say it. Aaron Boone came out and said, look, we don't think it's a big issue. Torres did leave the game yesterday. There was a blowout as well. Good news there. They expect him to be back in the lineup on the weekend. Well, I think that's good news. Now, he hasn't performed, so he was written about in the article yesterday, the middle infield piece over fantasyguru.com. Disappointing season all around from Torres, and it's really not getting better, and I'm pretty surprised by that. Jason Dominguez, we've talked a lot about Dominguez. I've said all along, there's no place for this guy in the lineup if the outfield is healthy. He was injured in the minors, working his way back, then tweaked something again, then working his way back. Now we got the update on his oblique strain that we did know he was dealing with. Aaron Boone said it could be up to 8 weeks. I mean, this season's going down the toilet for Dominguez. He's out another 2 months. So early August is an absolute best case scenario for him to be active at the big league level. If it's 2 months from now, that's July. I mean, that's the end of August. If it's the best case scenario, right? How often does the best case scenario happen? It might be September. So if you're holding Dominguez, you're holding the guy and hoping. Great talent, absolutely. But now with this potential of missing up to 2 months, I don't know why you'd be holding Jason Dominguez. Let's go through some of these guys quickly here before we bring in Russell Clay to talk some football. Zach Gallen is scheduled to throw a simulated game early next week, coming back from his hamstring issue. The hope is that next weekend he'll be available and good to go. He's got that grade 1 strain of his hamstring, so hopefully he's starting next week. He'll throw that simulated game early in the week, maybe pitch on the weekend for the Diamondbacks. Positive news there with him. Kodai Senga threw a bullpen session yesterday. He's coming back from the shoulder issue, as we've discussed over and over again on this show. What does this mean? I don't know. There's no timeline. He's certainly not returning before the All-Star break. It's going to take weeks of rehab starts. He's probably going to need 4 or 5 rehab starts, I would imagine. So we're probably looking best case scenario late July with him. Best case scenario. And as we have unfortunately seen with Senga, there have been many setbacks along the way. So it's very difficult to feel positive about his ability to help a fantasy squad in the second half. Yu Darvish, who's dealing with a groin injury, will return next week. They haven't quite said what day he'll return to the rotation for the Padres, but they're very confident he'll be back in the rotation next week. Adam Mazur probably goes adios. He's continued to struggle filling in for Darvish. Jose Soriano has been placed on the 15-day injury list with an abdominal infection. Ugh, that doesn't sound good. Hope he's okay. Pitching effectively, as we've discussed here, but he's on the injured list. He'll miss a couple of weeks. Robert Gasser, who we've discussed previously, is indeed going to have surgery on his elbow. The third opinion said, one of the other 2 opinions said have the surgery. So he, after 3 opinions, is having surgery. We'll see whether it's Tommy John surgery or the internal brace, but the start of next season obviously is in grave peril for him. He may not be available until midseason next year for the Brewers. Ricky Tiedemann, coming back from his elbow injury, struck out 4 guys over 2 perfect innings in his minor league start at single-A baseball. He threw 20 of 28 pitches for strikes, looked great. The 21-year-old had dealt with injuries last year. He's dealt with injuries this year. His elbow was the problem this year. He looked great yesterday. He was throwing 98 miles an hour and all of that. There's a chance he's up in the second half and helping the Blue Jays. Again, he's 21, but this is taking a little longer than expected because of health woes. And then finally, Wilyer Abreu got the ankle issue. They said he's feeling good. They said the recovery's gone well. And in fact, they're expecting him actually to be in the lineup today for the Red Sox. So this is really good news. The righty killer, Wilyer Abreu, looks like he's going to return to action for the Red Sox today. All right, so there we go. We'll come back to your comments and everything at the end of the show, so don't worry. We got you there. But right now, we got a chance to talk to a gentleman who was dubbed last night by Jeff Manns on the Elite Sports Show, which is Monday through Thursday, 8 to 10 Eastern on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. He was dubbed the best-looking man at fantasyguru.com. And I think, if I could read between the lines there, I think Jeff wanted to take it another step. He basically said he's jealous of this next gentleman. And who is that? It's the guy we talk to every Friday, Russell Clay. And look at Russell Clay. He's all embarrassed because he's so handsome. How you doing, Russell?
Hey, I'll take it. I'll tell you what, I think the Arizona sun adds, the complexion. The white pale Russ from Massachusetts probably doesn't get that honor, but here we are. Shout out to Jeff.
Yeah, he was really jealous. And by the way, that's high praise because to this day, Jeff, who is confirmed to be shorter than me, continues to insist he is taller than me. So I don't know what made him admit to the world that you're better looking than him, because he continues to deny the fact that 18 people have said I'm taller than him.
Listen,
good for you, Russell.
Listen, Ray, if there's ever a Fantasy Guru team photo, I would certainly be kneeling in the front because you guys are all monsters. So,
well, Phil Backer, Sandro, no, Ted Schuster.
Okay, yeah, me and Sandro be in the front like the soccer picture.
There, yeah. I was talking about this. My nephew just graduated 8th grade last week, and he's about 5'8" right now. And I was thinking back, I was like, God, wow, I was 5'8". I was like 11.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I was. My brother and I were built differently. I was a big kid when I was not that anyone cares, but when I was like a sophomore in high school, I was 6'2", 206. Now I'm about 6'4", 190. So I weighed more when I was 16 than I do now, and I was big. I've shown them on the show here. They called me big, husky, burly. I was a huge kid, and as I've gotten older, I've thinned out. My brother was a tiny little kid, tall, and he's filled out. So we've done a reversal. We were both like the same height. It was like, when we were 14, my brother and I were like, well, we were about 6 feet tall, and he weighed 126 pounds, and I weighed 195. So we've always had the height. Not that you or anyone cares, but I thought I'd share. So it's not all you cracked up to be. You get tall, you lose your hair, Russell. So I'd rather have your
did you play baseball?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
They did want me to play football, something fierce. The coach, the actual coach of the high school team was right at the end of his career as a coach, was my dad's coach in football in high school. And my dad was all everything. He was all league as a quarterback. He was all league as a defensive back. He was all league as a place kicker. He led the team to an undefeated season it was the only undefeated season the school had in 50 years. So he was like, Ray, let's get you up to 225 and put you at tight end. Like you could, because your dad, right? And I was like, nah, I don't. That's why I didn't catch. It's like my knees. Nah, I'm not doing that. So before I bore everyone with my life story, thank you for asking, by the way, Russell.
Yeah.
Russell Clay is our football guy. He's our dynasty guy over at fantasyguru.com. The dynasty rankings at the site are Russell's. You've also released your dynasty package, Russell. So talk us through that. That's a part of the draft guide. You get it if you sign up for the draft guide. Subscribe tab at the top right. Talk to us a little bit about what's been released and what else is coming along with your dynasty package.
Sure. So in terms of dynasty fantasy football, again, DFS sports betting, even season-long fantasy football, we're probably not playing high-stakes leagues here. So we're having fun. But, dynasty rankings, dynasty ratings, where I give the rank and then I give a rating. So those are a pretty cool thing. But we also have a bunch of strategy articles breaking down whether it's players, my rookie expectation series, and also going back to how to set up a league, how to keep a league going, end of roster management and deep roster leagues, and all that good stuff. I would still argue to this day, more so than even winning, keeping the Dynasty League together and going is the most important part. So it doesn't matter how sweet your roster looks if 7 people left and the league dies. So check out that stuff. But once your league is going and moving, then we can look at, rankings and sleepers and all that. So that's the goal there.
Hayden Hurst is commenting, by the way, saying, let's go Hayden, Handsome Russ, a.k.a. Tyler Beaker. So I think he's jealous. He's got the beard, though. We talked about it yesterday, the wondrous beard that I am personally jealous of. But he's a big fan of your handsomeness, too, Russell. Let's talk a little bit more about some of these youngsters. We're going to look at 2024. I feel like we have these discussions all the time. You never know who's listening. Sorry if there's some carryover. We had Russell on the Elite Sports Show last night. He joined us there to talk about what it was to kind of be a breakout player, because there's a lot of confusion as to what that was. So we kind of talked about some of the players on a list of, or should they be on that list or not? What does that mean? First guy I want to start with you about here, though, as we finish up wide receiver week, Russell, is Marvin Harrison. And I've heard a lot of people say that Marvin Harrison, including you, amazing talent. Marvin Harrison, #1 pick in fantasy drafts if you're doing a dynasty. Marvin Harrison is going to be a great football player. And then I've also heard a lot of people that said those exact things follow it up with, I can't believe how high his ADP is this year. Talk us through that, because, you got to draft this guy as a wide receiver 1, and there have been rookies that have done that, but history is not very kind to the rookie having to produce a 1,200-yard, 10-touchdown season to live up to expectations.
Yes. So the main point from last night is how much expectations have changed. And I just looked up a few guys on Sports Reference. Calvin Johnson, right? My favorite player ever, had 700 receiving yards in year 1. Julio Jones, 900. Antonio Brown was not a high pick, but he had like 200 yards his rookie year. And now the last couple years, especially 20 to 24, we've had Justin Jefferson come in and get 1,500 yards. We've had Jamar Chase come in and get, 13 touchdowns in year 1. And those are kind of held for just Randy Moss, basically, and Anquan Bolden randomly. But now these rookie seasons have such high expectations, and for good reason. The systems have gotten a lot better, and the players are much more finished products. So Marvin Harrison is a complete setup. He's done. It's a wrap. Like it's set up. He's already out of the box. He's ready to go. So 1,200 yards as a floor is a fair expectation, as long as Kyler stays in a reasonable injury situation. But it's crazy that to see him that high. Yeah, it's crazy.
Kyler's produced 1,000-yard receiver in his career.
Is it one?
One. It was DeAndre Hopkins when he had 100 catches and like 1,400 yards. It's 1 in 5. What is it? 5 years? Yeah. I know there's some injuries there, of course, and different coaches, and okay, but he's produced 1 in 5 years. It's like, I don't know. So would you pay the price? Would you take him 10th or 11th off the board at the wide receiver spot, Harrison?
Okay, so if I'm doing one redraft league, I'm probably looking at Garrett Wilson or one of the running backs in that range. But if I'm doing best ball, I'll take shots. But yeah, if it's my one barrel off, probably not. No.
Let's transition over to the Commanders. I think we're all big fans of Terry McLaurin, who's gone 70, 1,000 every year with literally catching passes from like 47 quarterbacks. Could happen again this year because Marcus Mariota is lurking, but obviously Jaden Daniels was drafted, expected to be the starter in week 1. We'll see how that goes. You talked about that too, the fact that now these rookie quarterbacks are immediately starting, whereas back in the day, these guys didn't necessarily see the field until December of their rookie seasons, if even the first year. So everyone's in on McLaurin. I think Robinson and Eckler, okay. Zach Ertz, Senat, maybe. Okay. What about Mr. Dotson? Jahan Dotson, who, is the number 2 receiver on this team. And there have been flashes, but certainly not a step forward that was expected for him. What are your expectations with him? Because I think he's what is he, wide receiver 4, 5? Like there's no excitement with him. Should there be more?
So guys like this are where I like to take my shots. He was a first-round pick. I thought year one, he showed a lot of signs with a terrible, terrible quarterback situation. Last year took a step back, but this isn't a Treylon Burks situation where he wasn't playing. And I do feel like it's getting priced like that right now. So Jahan Dotson's been a starter for 2 years.
Yep.
He's been on the field. He's been getting snaps. If the quarterback play is more efficient with Jaden Daniels, which I would almost guarantee it is, shout out to Sam Howell. Maybe he gets a starting spot again in Seattle, but he was not very good last year. So getting Daniels in there raises the floor for him, and he's very cheap right now. So, in a redraft league, you're really looking for a what the heck flex. And in best ball, if he can get you 800 yards, that's a huge hit at where he's going. So, yeah, for those expectations, we're doing pretty good.
As you can see, that's Russell Clay at fantasyguru.com. You can follow him on Twitter at Russell J. Clay. What about the situation with the Chargers? Like, we all know they're going to be run-centric and all. We know that. Someone's just got to catch the ball. They're still going to throw the ball, I think, Russell. I don't think they're turning it back to 1936, right? They're going to throw the football some. And my money, if I had to choose a guy right now, would be on Josh Palmer as their leading receiver. I have seen numerous sources say that Ladd McConkey's the guy. Talk to us about that. Is Ladd McConkey the guy? And if he is, what does that mean this year for fantasy?
So I wouldn't put it against Jim Harbaugh to do something crazy and run the wishbone. But in terms of that offense, Josh Palmer has played really well. And I think because he came in as such a low, nobody really liked Josh Palmer coming out of Tennessee for some reason. He did go in the 3rd round, so that was still pretty high. But yeah, has never really had the hype behind him. Maybe, he's not overly athletic. He's more of an intermediate weapon, so he doesn't have the George Pickens plays, right, and he's not in the full slot either. But year one, I'm with you. I'm totally with you. The Ladd McConkey thing is cool. I think he's going to be great long-term. But unless it's Amon-Ra St. Brown, we don't normally see the slot guys break out like he's currently projected to break out. We did a best ball draft on Tuesday, Tyler and Armando and I was shocked at where all the rookies were going. Brian Thomas going about 60 spots ahead of Gabe Davis, which I don't know if that's locked in yet. And then the Ladd McConkey over Josh Palmer by a big margin. Mm-hmm. That's surprising to me. We still have incumbents in the league here.
Well, it's June. I don't even know, 21st. I don't know what day it is anymore. It's June 21st, so it's still really early in the fantasy football process for 2024. And I'll be doing my first official draft next Monday, the FSGA Champions League I'm in. Justin Fensterman and I will actually be hosting that 8 to 10 Eastern on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. I'll be in the draft. I'll be interested to see as well, because now I'm looking at ADP numbers and I'm looking at Discord, and it seems like everything at fantasyguru.com right now has been dynasty stuff. Dynasty. Every day there's 57 questions. People are still doing dynasty rookie drafts, and it's like my mind seems a little warped, because that's all anyone cares about. But then I agree with you. I go to ADP and I'm like, these guys are being drafted too. Like you're saying, these guys are being drafted to be starters. Is it? Are we making that up just because we're knee deep in the dynasty stuff? Or are you getting the sense that community-wise this year, there is more of a push for favoring these rookies over guys that, Josh Palmer may not be great, but if he's healthy, isn't he catching 75 passes? I don't know.
There is absolutely more of a push this year. This is very unique to see a guy like Brian Thomas go this high. Treylon Burks, he was going pretty high, but I think he topped out at round 6, 7, maybe even 8.
Right.
So to see Lad McConkey, who a slot receiver from Georgia, go that high is like, wow, okay, we've changed course. Clearly, the sharp drafters in those best ball leagues who have done 150, they've probably run the numbers and said, hey, rookies, getting more of an opportunity lately, but that stinks to me. I don't know.
And this is coming from the dynasty guy, folks. So
right.
Him saying that, you would think he'd be the one saying, do it.
Yeah, all the young guys, but I'm like, hold on. Let's go with Josh Palmer here.
Well, let's talk about the Jaguars for a second. I know we've discussed Trevor Lawrence is your guy. You got the big contract and all of that. You've mentioned Brian Thomas a couple times. You mentioned Gabe Davis. What about the other guy? What about Christian Kirk? Does he fall into that realm of somebody that you're kind of saying, hey, I'm in on? Because it's not Brian Thomas. It's not the new guy, Gabe Davis. Christian Kirk, it's like, oh, I'll take Christian Kirk. He's pretty good, pretty productive player, is he not?
So all the talk about Trevor Lawrence last year was his injuries. Mm-hmm. And Evan Ingram made a boatload of fantasy money last year in the second half of the year because Christian Kirk got hurt and their offense fell apart. And I think there is, watching the games as a unbiased person, but when you're rooting for something to happen, like I was rooting for Trevor to succeed,
right,
you're much more aware of the things that went wrong. The Parker Washington snaps, not great, Ray. And I hope he improves.
Right.
And I do like him. I think he's going to have a long career, but he's no Christian Kirk. And, Evan Ingram had the volume, but he didn't have nearly the impact of what Kirk was doing. So, yeah, him back and healthy, I do think he's the number one guy in that offense, even though it is in the slot and intermediate. The Gabe Davis, Brian Thomas thing on the outside is going to help him, though.
What about the situation? We're talking again with Russell Clay. What about the situation with the Patriots? Like, things have been so bad offensively for the Patriots the last couple of years. Like, we're all conditioned, I think, at this point to say, get the running back, and then who cares, right? Mac Jones failed experiment. They drafted Drake May, who might need some developmental time. They added Jacoby Brissett, a very viable veteran. So that's a nice combination. They have some runway there if they need May to do some extra work on the side before starting in week 1. But you look at this receiving core, and it's like Kendrick Bourne or bust. Like, it's not. And there's like 15 receivers. I'm exaggerating. There's like 15 receivers on the 47-man roster. What about Demario Douglas, who, last season was, when healthy, catching 4 or 5 passes for 50 yards. And, hey, man, I'm in a bye week scenario and I need 10 PPR points. Grab, Demario Douglas. What do you think about him? Because a couple people have been asking about him. Obviously, Jalen Polk is the one because he's a rookie. But what about Demario Douglas?
So I do laugh because when you look at this depth chart, you're like, okay, Kendrick Bourne, he's pretty good. He actually is pretty good. KJ Osborne, he'll probably catch a deep touchdown or 2. Right. Juju, he was good a few years ago on the Chiefs. And you do that, and then you're like, okay, wait. So 7 guys are going to get 400 yards this year, and this is going to be a 1995 passing distribution here. So, yeah, I have a feeling it's going to be ugly early in the year, but one of these guys is going to emerge. Douglas is a lot like the Dontavian Wicks of the Patriots, where he really exceeded expectations last year, and now heading into this year, he doesn't have any of the investment from the organization, but a lot of these veterans, who knows where Juju's at this point in his career. He could just be toast. And Bourne is getting up there in age as well. So, I like that crew. I think they're going to be fine. And Drake May is probably going to pick a weapon within the first month of the year, but we need training camp to navigate this because we're purely speculating on mediocre guys. Let's be honest.
Okay. A final question for you, Russell. Let's go to more of the veteran zone because we've been talking about a lot of youngsters here. Tyler Lockett, I met him years ago and I was amazed. I mean, they say 5'10", 180, maybe. Like I shook his hand. I don't know if he's 5'10", 180. He's a small dude. And it hasn't mattered who's the quarterback. It hasn't 70 catches for 1,000 yards, 70 catches, 1,000. Last year, then we got JSN coming to the youngster who at this point I think you can make a very fair argument is more talented physically. You've got DK Metcalf doing his thing on the other side. Where are you at with Tyler Lockett? And how does he compare to Jeudy, who we've all been waiting for years to do something, who hasn't done anything, who's constantly been injured, and who's now on a new team with the Browns? Talk to us about Jeudy and Lockett and which guy you prefer for 2024.
So Lockett finally showed signs of tailing off after many years of being a best ball gold value, where everyone thought for probably the last 3 years he was going to taper off here, and he did nothing of the sort. So quarterback situation is the biggest factor there. I like Metcalf as the main deep threat. Him and Lockett and Jackson don't really collide. They play very different roles. Overall volume, more balls are going to go to Jackson this year, so that will affect him. But Lockett's just that great deep threat. Going to be a nightmare start sit wise, as he always is, because we know he's gonna have that 30 game at some point in the year. But from a best ball perspective, he's worth a shot, purely because we know what his role is. He's been around a decade now. This is a pretty clear one. Yeah.
Well, Jeudy, anything?
I want Jeudy to happen, Ray.
Okay.
I've been wanting it to happen, and 8 injury stints later, and I am cautiously optimistic on the sideline. I think he's a very talented player, but he's got to stay healthy, and he has at no point in his NFL career has he been able to do that. And even going back to Alabama, he had some issues there as well. So, yeah, tough.
I said last question for you. I lied because there's a user question for you. So I'll throw that up on the screen for people watching. David P. asking, morning, guys. A little off subject, but what do we think about the basketball trade of Caruso for Giddey? What kind of player is Giddey? Have a good weekend. I'm going to say, Russell, I have no idea. I know Giddey's a young guy, and I know he's pretty good. I don't know how to answer this question. I'm not a basketball guy. I've never been a basketball guy. Do you have any insight? And if you say Ray, ditto, I totally understand.
The one thing I know is Caruso's a really, really good defensive player, and that OKC team's going to have to deal with some really good guard play in the West the next couple years. So that's a good fit for them. And they have so many. Sam Presti is an electric GM at getting all the young guys together, but he botched, the Harden, Durant, Westbrook thing. Not botched. They got to a finals, but I think he's really trying to make this young group make amends for a decade ago. So that's the extent of my basketball knowledge, and that's it.
It's better than mine. You're handsome, football, and basketball too. So thanks for joining. Yeah, Justin Fensterman's our basketball guy. Actually, on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week, the Elite Sports Show from 3 to 6 Eastern, Monday through Friday. On Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Jeff Mann's going to be away on vacation. So on Monday, Justin Fensterman and I will be on the show. So Monday next week, from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern on the Elite Sports Show, Justin and I will be on the show. David, if you want to call on the show, we'll take your call on air. We'll have a couple of segments on the show in the 3 hours on Monday talking basketball. You can obviously, hit up everyone in Discord as well and ask them questions here. But I'm glad we had Russell there, so I didn't just say Giddey's young and good. So thank you for that, Russell. I want to let everyone know that if you want to get more of Russell's work, there's a very easy way to do that. There it is, right on the screen right there. Click the subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page. Go to fantasyguru.com/products/NFL-memberships. You can get in there. You can get the full season product that will carry you through the entire year. It'll give you all the rankings. It'll give you all the articles, access to Russell's live stream at 7 o'clock Eastern on Tuesdays, as well as all the dynasty information that he mentioned here earlier in his visit. So, Russell, thank you for your time today. We appreciate it. Have a great weekend. Work on that tan, and we'll talk to you again next Friday.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks for having me on, man.
You got it. Thanks for coming on, buddy. That's Russell Clay. You can follow again on Twitter, X @RussellJClay. All right, folks. So we're almost done here. Let's look at some comments before we shut this sucker down. Again, fantasyguru.com, subscribe tab in the top right corner. Get it, make it happen. Let's see some comments here. All right. Doug says morning. Angelo says morning. Isabel says morning. Morning, morning, morning. Brandon A says good morning, Ray and FSD fam. It's happy Friday. It is Friday today. Brandon, you got the day right. Yes, it is Friday. Happy Friday to everybody. Wayne Sexton says morning family. Let's go. Look at this love. I love the Fantasy Guru family. I love this. This is great. Russell Clay engenders all this excitement and happiness. I love it. Chaka the Furball says, morning, Ray. Any idea if Luis Ortiz is deployed as an SP or bulk reliever as he's done recently? Great question. I will say this, that as soon as the show is over, I start diving into the cash game breakdown over at fantasyguru.com. I don't typically the night before dive into pitching. So he's expected to start based upon what I'm seeing. I don't think he's following an opener. I will definitely dive into this more and have more information on this. Obviously, Ortiz, a former starter who's been working out of the bullpen. I'm looking at his pitch chart. 4 innings last time, 2 times ago, 5 innings last time. Like he can, he hasn't hit 70 pitches yet. So even if he's starting, there's not a lot of depth there. Probably better for him to follow an opener, right? Better chance for a victory against Tampa Bay. But I don't have that information now. I will get it after the show. Unfortunately, I just don't have it. It's it's only 8:55 in the morning here on the West Coast. And yes, you still have your printouts. I love it, Chalk. I still have printouts laying around here somewhere too. Eric S closes things up by saying, hi, Ray. Great week again. Nothing better than celebrating my 57th with some great info. Thank you. Happy 57th, Eric. Sorry we haven't got the tiki drink together. Hopefully you're having tiki drinks to celebrate your birthday today, wherever you might be. Happy birthday, everyone. Wish Eric a happy birthday. Thanks to everyone for being part of the show today. Really appreciate it. Again, we'll be back on Monday right here at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for Fantasy Sports Daily, starting July 1st, coming up soon. I know Russell Clay will enjoy this. We're moving the show back an hour. It'll start at 12 noon Eastern Time, 9 o'clock West Coast time on July 1st. Until then, it's 11 a.m. Starting July 1st, we're moving it back an hour, noon Eastern for the start of the show. Still will be Monday through Friday, and we'll still continue to talk about baseball while there is baseball to talk about. I'm Ray Flowers. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to Russell Clay. Everyone have a nice weekend, and we'll see you back here on Monday on Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.